Are there any bill introductions? Seeing none, we'll move on to the hearing on Senate Bill 329. Eileen, can you give us an overview?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Senate Bill 329 proposes modifications to the Able Savings Program in order to capture and replicate changes that were made on the federal level. The program is administered by the State Treasurer's Office, and generally the program allows individuals with disabilities to establish savings accounts to support each individual's needs and to take advantage of certain state and federal tax benefits. Section 1 amends KSA 75-651, which is the purpose statement of the Act, and the statute has been amended to add that one of the intents of the program is to gain the federal and state income tax benefits that are allowed by law. Section 2 amends KSA 75-652, and in this section, the definition of account owner, subsection B, has been amended from being only a conservator or guardian who may be appointed as an account owner who is a minor or lacks capacity to enter into an agreement to being a conservator, guardian, or person authorized by the treasurer through procedures established by the treasurer to act on behalf of a designated beneficiary. In subsection D, the definition of designated beneficiary has been amended to include a person authorized by the treasurer pursuant to KSA 75-653, which allows the treasurer to authorize residents of other states to participate in the program. In subsection E, the definition of eligible individual has been strictly modified to strictly adopt the definition of eligible individual from the Federal Internal Revenue Code. Section 3 amends KSA 75-653, and here the bill states that here the bill adds state to the description of tax benefits that participants can benefit from. Section 4 amends KSA 75-655 pertaining to the current requirements for establishing a savings account, and the bill changes references to the definitions in accordance with new definitions proposed in Section 2. And the section also includes references to the Federal Internal Revenue Codes and procedures established by the Treasurer's Office for program compliance. And the bill would become effective upon publication in the statute book. And with that, Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, are there questions? I see none. You must have done a great job. We will now turn our attention to proponent testimony. We do have a lot of ground to cover today, so if we could keep testimony to somewhere in that 4 to 5 minute range per person, that would be very helpful. First up is Kansas Treasurer Lynn Rogers. Lynn, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Longline and members of the committee. Again, also, whenever I get 3 or 4 people together, I like to remind you that we may have unclaimed property for you in the State Treasurer's Office, so make sure you check our website. But I'm really here to speak and thank you for your consideration of Senate Bill 329. I support this bill because it keeps the Kansas Able Savings Plan in compliance with mandatory federal regulations. As you know, it's a program that was started in 2015. It was approved by the Senate on a 40-0 vote and the House on 116-4 vote. So we've had strong support from the very beginning. We have opened over 500 accounts in the last year, and our assets under management have continued to grow. This bill will let us update the guidelines of who can open an account. Currently, it requires the starting of a guardian or a conservator, which can be very expensive for some of our Kansas families. And so this, because of regulations created by the IRS in the final months of the Trump administration, expanded that to include members of family, grandparent or parents, siblings, and whatnot. It will really help us grow the program. This will also help us if the rules change for, currently it's anyone under the age of 26 with a disability that got a disability before age 26. There's currently the Able Age Adjustment Act in the Congress, which is being co-sponsored by our own Senator Jerry Moran. Many of the federal legislators from Kansas are behind it as well. That expands the age to 46. If that law changes, then we would be able to implement that right away as well. So again, federal IRS regulations. So I would stand for questions, but I would encourage you, before we do that, if you wouldn't mind having our state attorney, staff attorney for the Treasurer's Office speak. He can talk about more of the technical things, and then we can both answer any questions from the State Treasurer's Office, if you would see so fine. So
That'd be great. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Let's turn our attention to John Hedges, staff attorney with the Kansas State Treasurer's Office.
Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Longbine and members of the committee. I'm staff attorney for the State Treasurer, where I help manage the ABLE program. And the Treasurer and Ms. Ma, thank you, have explained the basic purpose of the program. It's very similar to a 529 college savings plan, but it really benefits people with disabilities. Currently, as of the end of last year, we have just over 1,100 people here in Kansas who benefit from this program, own accounts. They are disabled people with various disabilities as permitted under the federal rules, and it's been a tremendously successful program. However, there's a conflict that was created between our Kansas statute and the final federal regulations that were published in November of 2020. The main change of this bill, SB 329, seeks to resolve that conflict. The issue is that under current Kansas law, for folks without capacity to manage their own affairs, which is a significant target population for this program, Kansas law requires folks to either have a conservator or, in some very narrow circumstances, a guardian. And that, I believe, was set up originally similar to many other states establishing ABLE programs, because we just didn't know what the federal rules were going to be. And so we, like other states, took a conservative approach and really limited enrollments. However, the final regulations establish a much broader category of people who can establish these accounts for people without capacity, mostly family members, but starting with conservator guardian through a list of family members down to the representative payee appointed by the Social Security Administration. So this really opens up who can enroll in these accounts, which has been a major problem for enrolling people in the ABLE accounts. So that will really help people here in Kansas get ABLE accounts, but the most important reason to make this change is because it's required under the federal regulations. This has to do with the definition of a qualified ABLE program under the federal rules. So if we don't make this change to permit this broader eligibility for enrollment, our program won't qualify as a qualified ABLE program. And the current beneficiaries of the program will they'll lose out on their benefits. The IRS will not recognize our program as a qualified program. So that's the main change that takes effect as soon as you hopefully pass this law. We're looking at a second change here, which the Treasurer explained relates to the age qualification. We are expecting federal rules to change soon to raise the eligibility age from 26 to 46. That is the disability that qualifies a person to establish an account will currently it has to occur before the age of 26. The Federal Able Age Adjustment Act has received wide support, and despite other congressional logjams at the federal level, we do expect that to pass soon. So rather than coming back to you and asking for this other change in a year, we would like to amend that part of the eligibility now in our Kansas statute to mirror whatever the federal rules become, which we expect will be age 46. So the Treasurer's Office is already implementing all of the updated regulations so as to remain in compliance with the federal rules, and that's using the existing authority under the current Kansas statute. We have almost everything we need under the current Kansas law to do that, but we need your help resolving this conflict in eligibility so that we continue to support Kansans with disabilities as they secure their own financial well-being. And I'm happy to stand for questions now or after other testimony is needed.
Thank you very much, John. Committee, are there questions of the Treasurer's Office? Senator Pittman.
Thank you. I'm full support of this. Just wondering, is that second amendment about the age 26 to 46, is it included in the current bill, Or is it something where we're actually going to have an amendment to what you've already proposed?
No, it is included in that, if I can get the section right, that's section 2 of the current bill relating to the eligible beneficiaries. So we just mirror the federal definition, whatever it is.
Any additional questions of the Treasurer's Office? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
We'll now turn our attention to Megan Shreevey with Interhab.
Good morning. I hope you can all hear me. Good morning, Chair Longvine and members of the committee. My name is Megan Shreevey. I'm the Director of Education and Communications for Interhab, the state association for providers of intellectual and developmental disabilities. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to speak today in support of amending the Kansas ABLE Savings Program language. Amending the existing statute will enable additional Kansans to secure ABLE accounts by expanding the list of people who can establish an ABLE account for an individual with a disability, as both John and Lynn mentioned. These accounts are essential so that individuals with disabilities and their families can save money for their future. In speaking with Interhab members, one of the biggest hurdles to opening an account is finding an appropriate person who is able and willing to assist them. And this language will close that gap and help them with that. The change will also ensure that Kansans can continue to rely on the ABLE program and preserve its status as a federal program. In addition, the ABLE Age Adjustment Act, as spoken to earlier, at the federal level will expand the number of individuals with disabilities who are able to open accounts from age 26 to 46. And again, amending the existing statute will ensure that Kansas is consistent with federal law and will allow a greater number of Kansans to participate and truly improve their quality of life with these accounts. And that concludes my testimony today, and I'll stand for questions at the appropriate time. Thank you so much.
Megan, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions of Megan? See none, thank you very much. We will now turn our attention to Laura Zani. Sorry for butchering that.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. My name is Laura Pederzani. I am with Our Care. We are a 501c3 organization that has provided professional support and advocacy and planning services for families and individuals with disabilities for 40 years. We offer right now 3 core services that really all align with the ABLE program. One is a professional trustee service where we act as a trustee for private special needs trusts. We also operate a first and third party pooled trust. We also provide a life care plan program that assists families with developing a personalized plan of support beyond what Medicaid services cover. And this can include as acting as court-appointed guardian or conservator if necessary. And we are also authorized by the Social Security Administration to act as an organizational representative payee, where we can help manage funds from Social Security for other benefits programs for an individual who cannot manage or direct someone else to manage their money. In our work, we have seen countless families come to us struggling to open an ABLE account for their child with a disability. And that is because of the narrow Kansas statutes that currently exist. Families that have, for the longest time, seek to promote the highest level of independence for their loved one and avoid unnecessary guardianships and conservatorships are often left with limited options on how to assist their loved one with starting an ABLE account. This Senate Bill 329 and this would recognize the federal's expanded hierarchy and would give these parents the opportunity to help their child establish an ABLE account under the federal rules. Again, as you may know, unlike the general public, individuals with a disability who receive Medicaid services are limited to having no more than $2,000 in non-exempt resources. As a representative payee, when we help individuals manage their money, we see countless times where an individual has gone over that $2,000 limit and they're left with no choice but to spend that money on something they don't necessarily need right now, rather than preserving that and saving it for a future need that's maybe not covered by Medicaid. And again, that's because right now, as a representative payee, we cannot assist them with opening an account. Again, while we have definitely experienced some of the barriers that exist to accessing the Kansas ABLE program, we've also seen and experienced on the provider side what ABLE accounts can do for beneficiaries and their families. Beneficiaries enjoy enhanced financial independence. They feel empowered to seek competitive employment. One of our clients recently we were able to help him, you know, get the ball rolling with contacting Kansas Able and setting up an Able account. And for the first time, he felt comfortable seeking competitive employment, knowing that he would be able to save some of his work earnings to pay for things that Medicaid doesn't cover. So again, individuals can use the savings to pay for things like tuition and achieve a higher quality of life past what's possible. And so again, we just urge you to support this bill and remove the unnecessary barriers to accessing the Kansas Able program that currently exist and really invest in the future of Kansans with disabilities. I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Laura, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions? I see none. Thank you very much. Let me call your attention to proponent written-only testimony from Mike Burgess with the Disability Rights Center, Sean Gatewood with CanCare Advocates Network, and Kathy Brennan with Prairie Ridge Community Development Disability Services in Chanute. Is there anyone else who would like to testify as a proponent on the bill? Are there any neutrals? Is there any opposition? Seeing none, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 329. We will now turn our attention to Senate Bill 327 or 337. David or Eileen, you want to give us an overview on it? I haven't seen David.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am not David, I'm Eileen. This is a brief on Senate Bill 337, converting the conditional charter issued for the pilot program under the Technology-Enabled Fiduciary Financial Institutions Act to a full fiduciary financial institutions charter. So Senate Bill 337 amends KSA 9-2325, the statute establishing the pilot program within the Technology-Enabled Fiduciary Financial Institutions Act. The bill adds subsection D1 and provides that as of December 31st, 2021, the conditional charter granted to the beneficent company under the pilot program is converted to a full fiduciary financial institution charter. Under KSA 9-2302 subsection A, when the conditional charter is converted to a full charter and the bank commissioner completes a regulatory examination of the pilot program fiduciary financial institution, the state banking board may begin approving applications from other entities seeking a fiduciary financial institution charter. And with that, Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions.
Thank you, Eileen. Committee, are there questions? Eileen, as a background on this, the interim joint committee on TEFIs, I think, ran into a conflict, kind of a chicken and egg situation. The original legislation that we had proposed the issuance of a full charter after an examination. And then I think what we discovered was that it was impossible to have items to examine if a charter wasn't issued so that investments could be made. And so I think this bill was an attempt to rectify that situation that we somewhat gave direction to rectify in the joint committee. So, any additional questions? Okay, Eileen, thank you very much. Committee, let's turn our attention to Melissa Wegeman with General Counsel with the Office of the State Banking Commissioner.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Thank you for having me with you today to present on our bill, Senate Bill 337. Senate Bill 337 does, in fact, capture the legislative intent as expressed at the Joint Committee on TEFI Oversight, which held its hearing on December 7th. The committee members specified that their intent was that the state's first TEFI would receive its charter and begin doing business in the state of Kansas on December 31st, 2021. Our office we had not reached that same conclusion when reading and interpreting the last year's bill, so we would like to clarify that point with Senate Bill 337. We believe having a clean and clear law offers our office protections, as well as offering some protections to beneficent too. We did in fact issue beneficent. They are the first and sole TEFI in the pilot program right now. We did in fact issue their certificate to transact business in Kansas on December 30th with the authority to begin business December 31st. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Melissa, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions on Melissa? I see none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Committee, we will now hear from Derek Fletcher, who is the President and Chief Fiduciary Officer of the Beneficent Company. Derek, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Chairman Longbine, members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 337. I'm also appreciative of the OSBC's office willingness to collaborate with us on this legislation and allowing us the opportunity to review and comment on the contents of that bill. As this committee will recall, on July 1st of last year, Beneficent was issued a conditional charter, but was not enabled to conduct FIDFIN transactions or conduct business in the state until the earlier of December 31st of 2021, or the date that the Commissioner's Office issued rules and regulations. As Melissa indicated, the OSBC and the State Banking Board did issue the authority for Beneficent to conduct business on December 31st of this year. However, as you read the TEFI Act, you notice that Beneficent's charter issued on July 1st was a conditional charter, but the Act does not specify the date upon which that charter is converted to a permanent charter. We had always interpreted the Act that the date that we can conduct business was also the date the charter would become permanent, because in our experience, customers are not going to engage with an institution whose charter is conditional because they have no assurances that that charter would become permanent and that the trust that they've placed in the organization to manage the assets long-term would be fulfilled. During testimony before the Joint Committee, comments were made in terms of that ambiguity, and so we're supportive of this bill in that it clarifies that charter becomes effective on December 31st, the date upon which Beneficent can conduct operations, and again clarifies any ambiguity that might otherwise exist. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Derek, thank you very much. Committee, are there questions? Senator Dietrich.
I completely understand what we're trying to do here, and I'm very supportive of it. I just wanted to make sure that we're still calling this a pilot program, and that has no conflict to this legislation that we're proposing, and I don't know who can answer that.
Well, my answer, and certainly Melissa can comment as well, is that we still continue under the pilot program. As a result of the permanency of the charter and our ability to conduct business, we now have transactions that the Office of State Bank Commissioner can examine, and as part of that examination process, it's really the core of the pilot program, so that we make sure rules and regulations, that the statute has all the components that are needed for the OSBC to properly regulate the industry.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure there was no conflict. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Senator Pittman.
Mr. Chair, I guess this could be for Eileen, since David Weiss isn't here, and it's okay if we don't know this at this point, but I'm just curious, this is a retroactive kind of December 31st, where we're going back and clarifying what's been done and solidifying the action of the OSBC, I believe. In this gray period between the time we get this enacted and it goes on the register and all that, is there any kind of jeopardy that we're putting the company in? I mean, I guess we can only do what we can do, right? But it will be retroactive and say, hey, their charter is solid, permanent. But we are in a gray area for them right now, I believe, aren't we?
Eileen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, there's not going to be a gray area because once it's published in the register, then the law becomes effective, and then the law states that the conditional charter was granted effective December 31st of 2021. So laws are made retroactively effective all the time, and there's not going to be any issues doing that.
Committee, additional questions? Derek, would you or Brad want to give us a quick overview of how things are going so far?
Thank you, Chairman Longvine.
Sorry for the lack of advance notice, Brad.
Didn't expect this, but we are doing an update today at the Commerce Committee hearing. If anybody has time to stop in and listen to that presentation. The Office of State Bank Commissioner issued us the charter on the 30th to begin business on the 31st, as authorized by the TEFI Act. We had, our interpretation of the first law was that we would be getting that on the 31st. And so with that in mind, we began doing marketing in the fourth quarter of last year, pre-marketing through the financial advisory networks across the United States. Our business comes in from people outside of the state of Kansas, and they bring assets from outside of the state of Kansas into the new fashioned Kansas trusts under the law. So we began to launch that and hold customer education sessions, both in the wealth centers around the United States and at our home in Dallas. There's mainly 7 wealth centers in the United States. California, you have 2. You have the Los Angeles area, you have the Bay Area. You have Chicago, you have New York, you have Boston, you have the East Coast of Florida, which is the main areas, and then you have what's called the Texas Triangle, Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. So we began that marketing. We had a statutory report that we provided as part of our business plan with the application to the Office of State Banking Commission that forecasted under our statutory forecast, we would do bring in about $350 million of assets from outside of the state in the first year of operation of 2022. And we would do financings on those assets of about $260 million in 2022, by the end of 2022. And that would generate about $6.5 million in our first year of operation under the pilot program, an additional $6.5 million of what we call in the statute the economic growth contributions to the rural communities of Kansas. We started, as I said, in the fourth quarter. Upon the email and receipt on the 30th, our team worked, and I was on vacation, and we worked the 31st, we worked the 1st, we worked the 2nd through the weekend. We closed all of 2022's business in those 3 days. And so we are very pleased to say that in addition to the $9 million of economic growth contributions that are required under the statute to be delivered upon the issuance of the charter, in addition to that, we have our forecasted statutory amount of $6.5 million also sitting at a trust escrow, ready to work with the Department of Commerce now for the disbursement of those funds. And our company now has met our first year objectives, and that puts us in the state of state of Kansas at about the 10th largest to 10th to 12th largest for assets under trust out of about 56 trust companies in the state of Kansas already. So let's see what 2022 holds. But we're really very pleased, and I'm pleased at the hard work of the 150 or so people we have at Beneficient that got that work done already. And now we're going to be rolling up our sleeves with Commerce and getting that money moving. I know, open a grocery store in Heston here in the next 18 months or so. We'll use a little portion of that. We don't need all that money for that, but we'll use a little portion of that to do it. Can I answer any questions?
Thank you very much, Committee. Are there any questions?
I want to add one more thing. One of the objectives of the legislation was to bring assets from people that aren't in Kansas, and they're assets that are professionally and institutionally managed that are outside of Kansas. These are the type of assets that Capers invests in as part of their alternative asset investment program. And through the networks in the fourth quarter at December 31 and all, we brought in about 2,500 customers indirectly through our direct relationship with the networks. Of those 2,500 customers, That was the $357 million of assets. Less than $1 million is Kansas resident assets, and that's from only 11 out of 2,500 people that are Kansas residents. Now, the reason this is important is because the economic growth contributions are paid for by people that aren't Kansas residents, and it's not from taxation. And it's on assets that are not currently in Kansas trust companies or banks. So we've just added to our assets under management in this state, out-of-state monies. That was the intent of the legislation. There were charts and so forth that showed that. And so we're real pleased that over 99.5% came from out of state, both on the assets and on the customers that we're indirectly serving through the networks. One last thing, we are adding to our board of directors. The Office of State Banking Commissioner is going through the approval process for another Kansas resident on our board of directors, and that is Emily Bauerstock Hill. She's a resident in Lawrence. She has a really fabulous educational background, worked in the financial industry for Morgan Stanley for a long period of time, has her own investment management firm in Lawrence, and she is the chairman of the Capers Investment Committee as well. So she has direct connection back here at the Capitol. So I'm sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to give those last two. We're pretty excited right now about the business that's in Heston right now. We've got about 7 employees there.
Thank you very much, committee. Any questions? See none. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any additional proponent testimony on Senate Bill 337? Any neutral testimony? Any opposition to Senate Bill 337? Seeing none, we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 337. Committee, it would be my intention to work these 2 bills tomorrow before our Associated Health Plan hearing. So if you have concerns or opposition, please get with me today or tomorrow before the meeting to let me know of any concerns that you may have. Otherwise, we'll plan on working these 2 bills to get them out and get them started. Anything else that needs to come before the committee? All right, we're adjourned. See you tomorrow.